Revealed. The incredible journey of a rejected boy who transformed into F1 legend Enzo Ferrari. 10-year-old Enzo Ferrari clutched the worn canvas strap of his lunchbox, its faded paintwork echoing the sun-scorched memories of grand races and childhood dreams. Each taunt from schoolmates felt like a weight on his small shoulders. "Look at those shoes. You racing anywhere today, Enzo?" Their laughter sliced through his heart, mixing sorrow with his fiery resolve. The heavy scent of motor oil and gasoline beckoned him to the garage, a sacred sanctuary where hope thrived in rusted engines and broken parts. Life in the tight-knit Italian-American community of Detroit was tough. Enzo's father, a once thriving mechanic, struggled beneath the crushing weight of a recession that had robbed them of stability. Their family's pride clung desperately, fraying at the edges. Enzo spent hours with his dad, tinkering with machines that came in, daydreaming of racing glory between the sounds of wrenches clinking and motors purring. "You could be as fast as a Ferrari, kid," his father would say with a twinkle in his eye, but those dreams felt like a cruel mirage. Yet, as he struck out on his journey, Enzo sought solace within the chaos. The garage radiated warmth and familiarity, a direct contrast to the laughter at school. Day after day, he poured his heart into fixing cars, learning the intricate dance of gears and pistons, all while nurturing a dream that even the toughest of nails seemed to mock. But then came the day when everything shifted. The phone rang late at night, the sound pulling Enzo from dreams into panic. His father, his rock, was in the hospital, bedridden with an illness that threatened to erase everything they'd worked for. The repair shop could barely keep afloat, and soon, Enzo found himself drowning in despair. He was supposed to be the son who would make everything right, yet he felt nothing but the weight of obligations pulling him deeper. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as despair began to take root, the community he thought had turned its back on them rallied. Neighbors who wouldn't meet his gaze now offered meals and help at the shop. They gave more than food. They shared their strength and support, planting a flicker of hope in Enzo's heart. He felt a strange warmth growing in the depths of his chest, a tight bond forming with the people around him. One fateful afternoon, a retired racer stumbled into the garage. Enzo looked up, surprised to see the old man's eyes spark with nostalgia. They spoke for hours about speed and triumphs, the boy watching as the man's words built a bridge to a world Enzo always yearned for. It was the spark he needed, a reminder that ambition could burn brightly even among life's toughest trials. With the local racing competition on the horizon, Enzo found himself standing at a crossroads. Should he race and chase his dream or remain tethered to the family's challenges? The clock was ticking. Each second fired up the engines of doubt within him. Would he finally take a leap of faith into the future, or would loyalty keep him shackled to the past? The answer loomed large as the sun dipped below the horizon, washing the garage in shades of uncertainty, leaving Enzo with one burning question. Which road would he race down? The day of the race dawned, crisp and vibrant, sunlight breaking through the morning mist like the roar of an engine breaking the stillness. Enzo's heart raced in tandem with the excitement that buzzed in the air. The smell of gas and burning rubber was intoxicating, nearly drowning out the lingering fear that had been his constant companion. He stepped into the garage one last time, running his hand over the worn hood of the car he had spent countless hours restoring. This was his chance. This was everything. "Hey, Enzo," a familiar voice called out. It was Marco, his childhood friend, now standing wide-eyed at the entrance of the garage, a grin plastered across his face. "You ready for this?" "I think so," Enzo replied, his voice trembling with the weight of reality. "You'll crush it. Just remember what I told you," Marco encouraged. "Feel the car. Be one with it." With a nod, Enzo felt a sense of camaraderie wash over him. The little community that once ridiculed him now stood in his corner, rooting for his success. He slipped on his racing gloves, their fabric comfortable against his palms. The thrill of possibility crackled in the air, knowing that beyond the fear lay the opportunity to triumph, to finally claim his place among the stars. As he arrived at the racetrack, a cacophony of revving engines and cheering crowds greet him. Enzo's stomach flipped. The stands were packed with faces, some cheering, others who had once laughed at him now standing in awe. The sight of it was overwhelming, electrifying. His eyes scanned for his father, the one person who believed in him against all odds. But there was no familiar face, just a swirling mass of strangers, and suddenly he felt alone again. Moments before the race, waiting in the pit, doubt wormed its way into his mind. What if he failed? What if he crashed? The whispers of his schoolmates echoed back, reminding him of times when he was the underdog, the object of their teasing. Yet, intertwined with that doubt was a fierce determination. He thought of his father, how he would always say, "You have to race through life. Don't let it pass you by." One by one, the cars roared to life. The other drivers were fierce, but Enzo was fueled by a different kind of fire. As the starting lights glowed red, he closed his eyes for a brief moment. He felt the vibrations of the engine beneath him, heard the distant cheers, and then all at once, it turned to silence. In that instant, it was just him, the track, and the fierce heartbeat of a dream he had almost let die. Green light. The engines exploded into sound, and he was off pushing forward, tearing down the straightaway. Instinct kicked in, steering him through curves and straights like a dance. Each lap brought him closer to proving that he didn't just belong. He was meant to race. But just as hope surged, a crash echoed behind him. A car skidded off track, sending dirt and debris flying, a harsh reminder of how quickly everything could change. The world seemed to freeze as fears flooded back. Visions of failure loomed large. Would he be able to keep his focus? As the caution flag waved, the tension thickened. Enzo's thoughts raced even faster than his car. This was more than a race. It was about his father's legacy, the love of a community, and the unyielding spirit of a boy who refused to give up. With a deep breath, the words of the retired racer echoed in his mind, igniting the flame of his passion. He was not alone in this fight. He wouldn't run from fear. He would race right into it. As the caution flag lifted and engines roared back to life, Enzo gripped the steering wheel tightly, determination surging through his veins. Heart pounding, he knew the real race was just beginning. Would he have what it took to win? Or was this just another fleeting moment where dreams slipped away? The answer lay just ahead, waiting for him at the finish line. The engines roared again, a symphony of power and speed that drowned out all other sounds. Enzo took a steadying breath, his pulse echoing the rhythm of the race as he prepared for what lay ahead. The caution flag had lifted, but the lingering fear remained, a familiar companion that whispered doubts into his ear as they hurtled down the track. Enzo spotted two drivers pulling ahead, their cars gliding effortlessly through the curves. He pushed his foot deeper into the accelerator, the adrenaline coursing through him like lightning. This was his chance to catch up, to prove that he belonged in this dangerous dance of steel and speed. He maneuvered into tight turns, feeling the weight of the car beneath him, the tires gripping as he skillfully navigated each curve. The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of sound that surged into his chest, filling him with warmth. It was intoxicating, a rush he had never experienced before. But as he glanced at the leaderboard on the screen, his stomach dropped. He was in sixth. The gap ahead felt unbridgeable. What if he never made it to the front? The smiles of his friends and the hopes of his father danced in his mind, pushing him forward. They had believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. Suddenly, a flash of blue caught his attention. It was Marco waving frantically from the stands. Enzo's heart swelled. His friend had been there every step of the way, and now he needed Enzo to deliver. Something ignited within him, a mix of determination and hope that propelled him to push beyond what he thought he could do. With renewed focus, he weaved through traffic, inching closer to the leaders. Each movement felt instinctual, as if the car were an extension of his very being. He caught up to a competitor, eyes narrowing with resolve as he tried to find an opening. And then it happened. The driver ahead misjudged a corner, veering off slightly. Enzo seized the moment, threading his car through the narrow gap. He could hear the roar of the engines around him, the pure thrill of the chase washing over him. He moved into third place. But then, as the next lap approached, his heart sank. The two leaders began to widen the gap, their cars dancing together like polished ballet partners. The pressure intensified. He had to step it up, to not just watch, but to be a part of this fierce duel. The next turn loomed ahead. Enzo felt the rush of wind against his face, the vibrations of the engine ringing in his ears. It was do or die. He had to push now. He took a deep breath and dove into the turn, gripping the wheel tighter than ever before. He was in the moment, focusing on the apex, feeling with every fiber of his being the connection between man and machine. His heart raced, thunderous, driven by the crowd and the idea of glory. The world outside faded until there was just him and the racetrack. Then he saw it, a small opening, just big enough. Could he risk it? The thought crossed his mind like an electric current. With a deep exhale, he made his move, executing a daring but calculated overtake. For an instant, time seemed to stretch, and as he exited the turn, he could see the second-place driver's tail lights glimmering ahead. Enzo was pushing it all now, his dreams within reach. The crowd's roars swelled, encouraging him as he drew closer to the leader with each breath. But in the heat of the moment, could he really catch up? Would all the hardship and determination pay off just a few laps away from the finish line? The answer remained tantalizingly out of reach, dancing just beyond his grasp. As he powered through the final lap, an unexpected voice echoed in his mind. Sometimes the most incredible journeys begin when you least expect them. With the finish line in sight, Enzo gripped the wheel tighter, his destiny thrillingly close. Would he grasp it, or would fate take another twist? The roar of the engines washed over Enzo like a crashing wave, drowning out everything but the sheer thrill bubbling within him. His heart thumped hard against his chest, a primal rhythm syncing with every sharp turn and acceleration. The finish line shimmered ahead, a promise mingled with uncertainty as he barreled forward. The second-place car loomed closer. Enzo could almost hear the whisper of the wind through the gaps of steel and rubber, urging him on. Crowds screamed in unison, pouring their hopes and dreams into the air. The energy electrified him, pushing him to go harder, faster. Just a few feet away, the leader was there, tauntingly close yet frustratingly out of reach. Enzo's hands clenched the wheel like it was a lifeline. Could he really do this? Could he overthrow a rival who seemed so untouchable? Breaths came quick and shallow. He was closer than he had ever been. With renewed fire, Enzo found himself scanning the road for any potential slip, any sign of weakness. He noticed the leader's tires momentarily falter as they entered a bend. A light flickered in his mind. Was this the opportunity he had been waiting for? Not hesitating, Enzo steered into the turn, trusting the car's capabilities while his instincts kicked in. The tires screamed, clawing at the asphalt, and for an agonizing moment, it felt as if time suspended. Would the gamble pay off? He slipped into the inner lane, and just like that, he was neck and neck with the leader. The thrill surged through him like a rush of adrenaline pumping through his veins. He could almost hear Marco's voice, cheering from the stands. "You got this, Enzo." But the leader, sensing the pressure, leaned into the throttle, determined to maintain his lead. The roar of the engines crescendoed, a battle of wills raging between them. The two cars raced side by side, their metal frames glinting under the bright lights, each vying for supremacy with an intensity that electrified the atmosphere as they approached the final curve. Enzo could feel the pull of gravity, a weight trying to flatten him against the asphalt. The finish line was in sight, closer than ever, yet fear clutched at his gut. What if he pushed too hard? What if he miscalculated? A familiar face flashed in his mind, his father's steady encouragement, his unwavering belief in Enzo's potential. A warmth filled him, igniting a fire he hadn't realized was burning so brightly. No time for doubts now. It was time to believe, to harness that love into fierce determination. Diving into the curve, he felt the car pivot, almost graceful. With a final burst, he aimed for the spot just ahead of the leader. Gaining moment by moment, the thrill morphed into focused clarity. This was it. Suddenly, there it was, a critical moment of hesitation from the leader. Enzo seized it. He pushed the pedal to the metal, feeling the car leap ahead, hairpin turns exhilarating and risky. The crowd's cheers crescendoed to a roar as he surged past. The finish line looming, tantalizingly close, and a heartbeat. Enzo crossed it, but the world narrowed into a tunnel of sound and blur. Brilliant colors exploded in his vision, the satisfaction rushing through him like a distant memory resurfacing. He had done it. He had won. But just as the realization washed over him, something fell into shadow, the unmistakable signing of a familiar engine beside him. He turned, and there it was, the second-place driver, anger and confusion etched on their face. "Did you really think you could get away with that?" The words exploded from their lips, heavy with challenges and unresolved rivalry. Enzo's heart raced again, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was excitement. His journey had just begun, and perhaps the real race was still ahead. What lay waiting beyond the finish line? The crowd was a whirlwind of noise and energy, but Enzo's focus narrowed to the driver beside him. The second-place car seemed to pulse with frustration, mirroring the tension simmering in the air. He felt the weight of their rivalry pressing against him, but instead of intimidation, it thrummed excitement through his veins. "Yeah, I did," Enzo shot back, the words sharp but filled with adrenaline. His heart pounded. He had just topped all his doubts and hurdles, and now, facing his rival, he felt an overwhelming confidence burst forth. "I earned that win." The other driver blinked in surprise. "You think you're something special? This isn't over, you know." There was a challenge in their eyes, something that sparked a competitive fire within Enzo even more. But win or lose, this moment was about more than just a trophy or a title. It was about proving to himself that he belonged here, at the very top, where dreams met reality. As he drove into the paddock, the adrenaline began to ebb, replaced by a swelling sense of accomplishment that filled him until his chest felt ready to burst. His crew surrounded him, cheering and clapping him on. Marco was the loudest, practically beaming with pride. "You did it, Enzo. You really did it." He jumped up and down, and the joy radiating from him was infectious. But even amid the celebration, Enzo caught a glimpse of the second-place driver being consoled by their team. Anger was still etched on their face, that fire undying. It made him realize this wasn't just a minor bump in a lifelong journey. Every competitor pushed someone else to be better, to reach higher. His victory would only ignite their desire for revenge, and somehow, that felt exhilarating. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Enzo found a quiet moment to reflect. He wandered away from the crowd, letting the chaos fade into the background. In the solitude, he discovered an unexpected moment of clarity. For once, he could see that this wasn't merely about winning. It was about passion, perseverance, and the journey itself. He thought about his father, his constant source of encouragement. "You never let anyone else define your worth, son. Only you can do that." A knot formed in his throat as he recalled those timeless words. How could he blend the drive to succeed with the spirit of sportsmanship? Just as he was getting lost in thought, a voice broke through the quiet. "Enzo." It was Marco again, running toward him, panting a bit. "You need to see this." Curiosity piqued. Enzo followed Marco back to the paddock. The chatter of the crew buzzed with renewed energy, but something else hung in the air, a tension mixed with excitement. "What's going on? Did they announce something?" Enzo asked, half excited and half anxious. Marco's eyes sparkled. "You'll want to hear this." He motioned for Enzo to step into the center of the crowd surrounding the screen. As they all tuned in, the announcer's voice boomed over the speakers. "And now, a surprise announcement for our champion." With every heartbeat, a flutter of anticipation twisted in Enzo's gut. What could it be? Winning felt like the start of something bigger, but he hadn't expected it so soon. Then the screen flickered to life, and Enzo felt his breath hitch. The words flashed across the graphic. Next race. International Grand Prix in your hometown. A roar erupted from the crowd. Suddenly, this wasn't just a game anymore. This was personal. Enzo realized he wasn't just racing against competitors, but also racing toward his own legacy. Every challenge he faced, every rival and friend, was a piece of the journey that shaped him. His heart soared with hope and possibility. But could he handle the weight of expectations, both from the crowd and himself? As the celebrations continued around him, Enzo felt a rush of emotions swirl within. He glanced around at familiar faces filled with excitement, but couldn't shake off the gnawing sense of fear of what was to come. This was a race unlike any other, and somehow he knew the real challenge had just begun. The night stretched out under a blanket of stars, but for Enzo, it felt like the air crackled with a new kind of energy. The thought of racing in his hometown sent shivers down his spine. Memories rushed in the sound of engines revving, cheering crowds, and the smell of gasoline cutting through the crisp air. Could this really be him? Could the small kid who once dreamed under the same sky now be the center of such excitement? I can't believe this is happening. Marco's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to reality. This is it. Enzo, you're going to own that track. Enzo smiled, letting Marco's enthusiasm warm him. But the flutter of anxiety settled in again. What if he didn't live up to the hype? What if the expectations turned this opportunity into just another pressure cooker? Yeah, but Enzo hesitated. What if I mess up? I'm racing in front of everyone I know. Listen, Marco said, his gaze steady. You've worked hard for this. You belong on that track. Just drive like you always do. You got this. The conviction in Marco's voice steered Enzo's thoughts away from doubt. But beyond the cheers and bright lights awaited a weight heavier than any he'd felt before. This wasn't about just racing anymore. It was about fulfilling a dream intertwined with his identity, emotions, and the people who believed in him. As Enzo walked back toward the paddock, he spotted his father in the distance. He was leaning against a truck, arms crossed, a proud smile tugging at his lips. The moment their eyes met, his father's gaze was like a beacon amidst the whirlwind of celebration. For a fleeting moment, all the noise faded. It was just them. Enzo's chest swelled. His father had always pushed him toward greatness, and now that influence took on a different form. I'll make you proud, he whispered under his breath. Hey, Enzo. A few teammates hollered, beckoning him to join them. The camaraderie reminded him why he had chosen this path. He thrived in this environment, the excitement fueling him. But as the night wore on, doubts crept in again. What if the fans' support was a fleeting spark? What if he let everyone down on race day? Flashbacks of past failures rolled in, but he forced himself to push those thoughts aside. Racing had always been about resilience, learning from each turn and every misstep. The next few days flew by in a blur of practices and media events. Enzo felt the pulse of anticipation in his blood, but shadows of fear loomed larger as race day approached. His team's passionate hustle fueled his courage, but moments of solitude highlighted the growing pressure inside him. The night before the race, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The sound of the engine replayed in his mind, the thrill of crossing the finish line. But beneath that excitement lurked the fear of not being enough. Would all of this be worth it when the rubber met the road? By morning, he'd lost the battle against sleep, nerves knotted in the pit of his stomach. He stepped out into the soft light of dawn and took a deep breath, the chill against his skin both grounding and invigorating. The day he dreamt of began to unfold, inviting him to embrace its challenges and triumphs side by side. For every worry that clung to him, there was a flutter of hope in its wake. His heart raced, and he felt ready to take on the world. But could he ignore the shadows of self-doubt long enough to make the moment his? As he pulled on his racing suit, Enzo caught his reflection in the mirror. He didn't just see a driver. He saw potential, passion, and possibility. Somehow, he knew that this was just the beginning. The roar of the crowd would meet him soon, but what awaited him on the track? Would it be a moment of triumph or heartbreak? The sun peaked over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the racetrack, waking up a slumbering world. Enzo took a moment to soak it all in. The bitter chill of the morning seemed to dissolve with each breath. He felt electric, but a flicker of fear still danced at the edges of his excitement. As he approached the track, sounds began to fill the air, mechanics chatting, engines humming, fans buzzing with anticipation. The scent of burning rubber and gasoline hung heavily, awakening his instincts. This was at the culmination of every early morning and every late night, every battle he fought to show he was worthy. His team huddled near the pit, but as he walked closer, their chatter faded. Their eyes were bright, sweaty from preparation, filled with hope and unity. "Enzo!" they shouted in unison. Each voice blended into a powerful rhythm, a heartbeat he needed to lean into. "Ready to rock it?" One of his crew members grinned, clapping him on the back. "Born ready," Enzo replied, though doubt pricked at him. He climbed into the car, settling into the familiar embrace of its cockpit. The roar of the engine felt like a symphony beneath him, but he could also hear the whispers of expectation: expected to win, expected to shine. "Just drive like always," he told himself, but the words echoed hollow. Hadn't he said that before? The warm-up laps came and went. His fingers danced over the steering wheel, each curve coaxing confidence back into his veins. Yet, with each passing minute, more faces appeared in his mind. His dad's pride, Marco's support, the cheering fans all meant so much. Would he measure up? As he finally took his position on the starting line, the reality of the moment slammed into him. The sky above was bright, but his heart raced at a different speed. The roar of the crowd washed over him, infusing him with energy, but it also heightened the stakes. He was not just racing. He was racing for everyone he cared about. He placed his foot on the pedal as the pre-race anthem echoed, an electric melody soaring through the arena, igniting the crowd. The lights flickered, indicating the countdown. Each second felt like an eternity. He stared ahead, losing himself in the asphalt infinity stretching out before him. Then it happened. The lights flickered red, then green. The engines roared to life, vibrating through him as he surged forward, merging instinct and adrenaline. For a moment, everything else fell away. Just him, the asphalt, and the fierce competition. Every gear shift became a heartbeat, every turn a whisper, leading him further into the race. Yet, as he veered into the first turn, memories of those past failures darkened his thoughts. The times he'd faltered, the laps he'd lost. But instead of cowering to those memories, he screamed in defiance. This was not the past, this was right now. As they headed into the straightaway, Enzo focused on the speed, the thrill. But just ahead, a crash erupted. A flash of metal, tires screeching, a chaotic wave of motion. Everything changed in an instant. His heart plummeted as adrenaline clouded his judgment. Would he avoid disaster? Or might this be where everything he worked for unraveled? His hands gripped the wheel tighter, and in that split second, he knew he had to make a choice to follow the path ahead or swerve into the unknown. Which way would he go? Enzo's heart raced as he instinctively jerked the wheel. The decision felt monumental, as if the world around him slowed, and time stretched. He wasn't just avoiding the wreck. He was avoiding the shadows of doubt that had trailed him for too long. As he swerved, tires squealed in protest. The car danced beneath him, a fine line between chaos and control. For a heartbeat, he felt the thrill of survival and liberation wash over him. He could do this, he could outrun his fears. All around him, the track became a blur. Colors melded into streaks of vivid emotion. He heard the cacophony of revving engines and cheering fans fade into a distant hum, replaced by the rhythmic thudding of his heart. He was truly alive. With his foot flat against the pedal, he pressed forward, navigating around the wreckage. He could see it clearly now, sparks flying, a tangle of metal and disappointment. Was that the face of a rival he had admired? The thought stirred up an ache in his chest, but he pushed it aside. He was racing now, and nothing else mattered. The noise of the crowd surged back. They were on their feet, gasping, shouting his name. Enzo gripped the wheel tighter, channeling their energy into every twist and turn. He passed through the first lap with renewed vigor, the car responding to his every command. But doubt would not stay quiet for long. As he approached the next corner, a shadow crept in. What if it happened again? What if he wasn't good enough? Yet the thought was muted by the memory of his father's encouraging words, the sacrifices of his teammates. They believed in him. That had to mean something. Determination surged through him, pushing him to break past the pain of previous failures. He could almost hear Marco's voice, urging him on. Fight, Enzo. Fight for your dreams. He could not let them down. He maneuvered through the turns, the car becoming an extension of himself, gliding and soaring past the competition. The world around him transformed, the cheers were louder. The track beneath felt more forgiving. It was exhilarating. As he raced towards the next lap, the adrenaline coursed through him like wildfire. The finish line loomed on the horizon, beckoning him. Yet, with every rev and every shift, a nagging anxiety lingered. What if he couldn't hold on to this feeling? What if it slipped away like everything else? He glanced at the rearview mirror, spotting his closest rival gaining on him. A flash of silver cut through the air, relentless and swift. Enzo could see the determination etched on the competitor's face, familiar and fierce. He tightened his grip once more. Right now, it was not just about him. It was the challenge, the thrill, and the victory that awaited, the validation he craved. With a fierce resolve, Enzo accelerated harder than ever before. He could taste the victory, and it was sweet. A roar of the crowd ignited the spirit within him. This was his moment. But just then, a startling blip of red on the track, a warning flag. Something was wrong ahead. Worry rushed back into his veins. Could this be the end of his comeback? Or could it propel him to handle the chaos before him? The racetrack tightened its grip around him, and he felt the ground shift. A choice lay before him once more. Would he manage to conquer yet another obstacle? Or would this race turn into his final curve of defeat? Enzo's mind raced faster than the car beneath him. The blaring warning flag starkly contrasted the euphoria of the crowd. His heart hammered, a drum in his chest echoing his turmoil. Was it worth risking everything now? He had fought so hard to pull himself from the depths of doubt. The track ahead twisted into a haze of uncertainty, and for a split second, a shadow of panic gripped him. He focused on the flag waving furiously, signaling something sinister just ahead. A part of him wanted to let off the gas to play it safe. But another voice, stronger and louder, urged him to press on. You've got this, Enzo, it whispered, reminding him that every racer faced danger, that each journey was fraught with obstacles. He could almost visualize Marco's smirk from Wednesday's practice session, confidence radiating from him. Trust yourself, buddy. You're not just a driver. You're a fighter. The words settled like a warm blanket over the cold fear creeping in as he rounded the corner. The scene unfolded before him, displaced debris, wrecked cars, and a safety crew rushing to the site of the accident. It was chaos. Enzo's instincts kicked in, a response honed through years of experience. He had to concentrate. This was the turning point that could define his career. He flicked the switch in his mind, choosing to embrace the challenge rather than shy away from it. He skimmed his gaze across the wreckage. He might be tempted to slow down, but fear wasn't going to steer this race. Not today. He could visualize the finish line. It was closer now than it had ever felt. With a surge of courage, he steered back into the fray, dodging debris and maintaining speed. He felt the rush of wind whip through the opened windows, scenting the air with possibilities. As he barreled onwards, the spectators gasped, then erupted into cheers again, their encouragement fueling his fire. They believed in him. In his rearview mirror, he could see Marco's challenger still in pursuit, unyielding. A fierce competitiveness ignited within him. Enzo focused, channeling everything into the drive. He had learned to master his fears, but facing a rival who desperately sought to overpower him was an entirely different game. Every twist and turn perfected his rhythm. He made decisions in milliseconds, cutting corners with precision. Each time he felt the car respond, he could hardly believe how far he had come. Just moments before, he was ready to give up. Now, determination burned like a beacon in his chest. The race was far from over. The warning flag had signaled danger, but it had also ignited an inner resolve. Enzo pressed the pedal to the metal, his instincts telling him this was his moment to shine. Racing wasn't just about speed, it was about heart. And right now, his heart felt unstoppable. He soared through the curves, knowing the finish line was just moments away. Every face in the crowd became a blur, yet their unyielding support resonated deep within him. This was not just a race. This was his rebirth on the track. But just as he reached the final turn, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, twisting everything. "You're not ready yet." It wasn't a doubt, but a challenge. What did that mean? Was there still one last hurdle to overcome before victory? Enzo fought the urge to look back. But in riveted silence, he realized he had just ventured into the greatest battle of his journey. Would he emerge as the champion everyone believed he could be, or would he stumble at the last fork in the road? Enzo felt the adrenaline push him forward, his heart thumping like a drum in his chest. He was up against everything: his past, his fears, and the rival closing in behind him. The final lap stretched ahead, a ribbon of asphalt promising glory and redemption. The crowd roared, their voices filling him with a blend of hope and pressure. Could he do this? Turning into the last corner, his thoughts drifted to his father and the support he had found in his community. Their faces flashed before him, the shared laughter, the late nights in the garage, all leading to this one defining moment. With every pace of his heart, Enzo felt their determination woven into his. "Stay focused. You've got this," he whispered to himself, and in that moment he found clarity. This wasn't just about racing. It was about showing everyone that dreams could be born from the ashes of struggle. And here he was, inching closer to turning those dreams into reality as he cleared the last corner. The finish line surged into view, crisp and bright against the backdrop of roaring fans. The final straightaway opened up before him, and with a swift kick of power beneath him, he surged ahead. The speed exhilarating, the world blurred into a swirl of colors. Every ounce of training and heart was poured into that moment, and with each rotation of the wheels, he battled not just the other cars, but his own doubts. Then came that moment, a flash of silver beside him as his rival made their final move, trying to sneak ahead. Enzo's instincts roared, fueled by the need to prove himself. He shifted gears, tightened his grip, and pushed the accelerator down harder than ever before. He wasn't just racing for victory. He was racing for every single challenge he'd ever faced and for every person who believed in him. The finish line was right there, a breath away. With one last surge, Enzo poured his soul into that acceleration. Tires begged for traction, engines roared like wild beasts, and the crowd erupted into a symphony of cheers. He felt their energy wrap around him, igniting a blaze of possibility. And then it happened. Enzo crossed the finish line, his heart skipping and racing in harmony with the roar of the crowd. He had done it. The checkered flag waved above him as he slammed on the brakes, the rush of victory flooding through his entire being. Elation, disbelief, and triumph coursed through him like a river. He was not just a boy. He was the boy who had transformed into a champion. His crew rushed to embrace him, their cheers enveloping him like a warm blanket. Marco was the loudest, his voice bursting with energy. "You did it. You really did it." Their friendship, strong and unshakable, had been forged through every trial they'd faced together. As the podium beckoned him, the weight of expectations lifted. Enzo climbed the stairs, heart racing not from nerves, but from pride. They had believed in him, and now he could finally believe in himself. The world would see him not as the rejected boy, but as a symbol of resilience and passion. He stood on that podium, the trophy gleaming in his hands, and looked out over the crowd. His father's face sparkled with pride in the distance, a tear glistening in his eye. With the trophy raised high above his head, Enzo shouted back to his community, "This victory is ours. Thank you for never believing I was alone." Beneath the shower of confetti and cheers, he felt their hearts lifting with him. In that moment, he knew he was never just racing for himself. He was racing for every little boy and girl who dreamed big despite all the odds stacked against them. And as he made his way back to the pit, he knew this was just the start. A new chapter was beginning. Winning the race had been just the first step. Now he was ready for the journey that lay ahead. Enzo Ferrari was not only a driver. He was a testament to the power of belief. So let this be a reminder to all of you: when your dreams feel out of reach, dig deep and race forward. If you enjoyed this thrilling journey with Enzo, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to help us feed the algorithm and keep these exciting tales alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support.